Today we're actually going to take our major scale and we're going to pull the notes for a major triad out of it, and then we're going to talk about how to manipulate that major triad in order to get some of the other chords. If you haven't done the cage system lesson or any of the other major scale lessons, you need to go back and take a look at those, because what I'm going to give you in this lesson doesn't really stand by itself. You're really going to need to understand this before you can get anything out of this particular lesson. The last week's lesson, we started off by taking each of your caged root patterns and building a major scale within each of those root patterns. What we're going to do today, you have each of the notes in there as a scale degree. It's got a number that refers to how far it is from the root. The root's the first note. The second note up, if we're in G, the second note up would be A, we call it the second. Third note up would be the third, fourth would be the fourth, fifth note up would be the fifth, sixth note up would be the sixth, seventh note up would be the seventh, and then we're back to our root. If we've gone through all 7 notes, we'll also refer to the root as an octave. Now, we're only going to be dealing with triads today, and a triad is a 3-note chord. A major chord, a minor chord, an augmented chord, a diminished chord. These are all triads. The major chord is constructed of 3 notes within this major scale. The first note is the root, it's going to be our starting point. The third note of the major scale, and then the 5th note of the major scale. So we have root, third, 5th in this octave, and then we're going to have root, third, 5th in this octave, and then we have one more root in this position. Now typically if we're playing in this 4th position, G, you could have this major bar chord here. That would actually be the chord shape, and it actually has most of the notes that we just played in it, except for this 3rd note out here. So that is a major triad. In the key of G, we have G, we have B, which is the 3rd note up, G, A, B, and then we have D, which is the 5th. Now, we have interval quantity, which is how many scale tones are between the note and the and the root, and then we also have the quality, major second, minor second, perfect 5th, diminished 5th, ideas like that. In the music, in the notation that is going to accompany this lesson on my blog, there's going to be a list of all of those interval qualities. The thing to remember with the major scale is that each of the intervals are named as follows. You have your root. The second note is called a major second. The third note is called a major third. The 4th note is a perfect 4th. The 5th note is a perfect 5th. The 6th note is a major 6th. The 7th note is a major 7th, and then we have the octave. For practical purposes, if we have to take a major interval and lower it by 1 fret, we call that a minor interval. So from G to A is a major second. From G to A flat is a minor second. From G to B is a major third. From G to B flat would be a minor third. Now, the 4th note, we really don't have a diminished 4th, because that just makes a major third, and there's a lot of theoretical rules that you can say stuff like that, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for what the majority of you guys are going to be doing, so we're not going to explore that. If we're on the perfect 5th, though, we have a diminished 5th. One of my favorite examples of this is the song Black Sabbath. There's a bunch of metal tunes and stuff like that. The diminished 5th is also called the tritone, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Maybe not even in this lesson. Your 6th note is the major 6th, so if we drop it down 1, that's a minor 6th. Your 7th note is a major 7th, so if we drop 1 down, that is your minor 7th. And then the octave, we don't really go up or down with, otherwise it would change the tonal focal point of the whole thing. So a major chord root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. A minor chord is made minor by just dropping the third note, one half step, which would make it a minor third. Root, minor third, perfect fifth, root, minor third, perfect fifth, and then the root again. So the major triad, G, B, D, which is the root on the 6th string, 3rd fret. The B is the note on the 5th string, 2nd fret, and then we've got 5th string, 5th fret for the D or the 5th. And then continuing up, G, B, D, G for the major. And just by taking the B and lowering it 1 fret to make it a minor third, we get a minor chord sound. Alright, major chord, minor. If you go back to your open chords, you can actually see, you've got a D minor chord, or a D major chord, and then to make it minor, we take this note and we drop it down 1. If you have an E major chord, you get rid of that finger, and it's minor. What you're doing in each of those is you're lowering the third down to a minor third, and then getting that minor chord sound. So you've got your major triad, you've got your minor triad. A diminished triad is where we lower the third and the fifth. Alright, so we've got root, minor third, and then instead of playing the perfect fifth here on the D, we're playing a D flat, which is a diminished fifth. Root, minor third, diminished fifth, root, minor third, diminished fifth, root. Alright, third lowered, and then fifth lowered. Alright, this is the root, the third has been lowered, the fifth has been lowered, and then here's the root again. The very last triad that we're going to deal with is the idea of an augmented triad. Augmenting an interval is where you take a perfect interval, like the 4th or the 5th, and you raise it up a half step. It's the reverse of a diminished interval. So we have root, major third, and then augmented 5th. Right, so instead of just the regular major triad, we've got that, and then root, third, here's your augmented 5th, and then root again. So there we have it. We have major, root, third, 5th. We have minor, root, minor third, perfect 5th. We have diminished, which is root, minor third, diminished 5th. And then we have augmented, root, major third, augmented 5th.